have that.
Oh, I'll keep shitting on Justin while he's gone. I like having the only thing better than a soft target is an absent target. So I'll say shit about him. Welcome, Will.
So nice to have you, Will.
It's genuinely really nice to be on, a thing that I kind of thought would never happen, because what do I have to say about anything you guys are talking about, except for when I'm editing, and I do
hopefully
kind of
you've got enough for an hour is the answer to that question.
I have the knee-jerk reaction when I'm editing of like, I should just start dropping takes in the group chat to be like, Jen, you were right about that. But like, if it's anything like when I record podcasts, I would say that and you'd be like, I don't even remember what I said. That went into the ether the second I stopped talking. So
I mean, that's real, but you should still share your thoughts in the group chat, because we put all kind of nonsense in there, so you might as well join the party.
I don't want to
I would have agreed with Jen if Will had used me as an example, but since he didn't, I think you should shut the fuck up, Will.
Yeah, I'm always like, Heaton, no, to be fair, I'm always like, Heaton's weather takes are correct, and he should continue to say them. So
okay. All right, I'm going to give you partial credit, young man.
I have you guys on that one, but yeah, no, I'm excited and nervous to do this, so hopefully I don't fuck it up.
Oh, you've hung out with us before. It's the same shit, just on.
I know.
Plus,
Zoom.
you're the guy that can cut out the shit, right? So if something
that's true,
if you get all nervous and say something homophobic or something, you just go cut it out later, or use AI to modify it so it sounds like Justin said it.
No, that's the plan right there. I know he said he might jump on, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you never know.
He's been oddly quiet today, so yeah. I don't think we're going to hear from him because he's a dad now.
Yeah, he's a dad now.
He's a dad.
Yeah, listeners, if somehow you didn't know this, if you're not reading the tabloids that I am, you should know Justin Robert Young, in defiance of God's will, has reproduced, and he is now a father, as is his wife, Ashley. She's a father, too. They're both fathers now.
To baby Bella. So welcome to the world, little Bella.
Welcome,
Absolutely
Bella.
Adorable. Now, I do want to just say, I don't mean to criticize Bella, 2 days into her existence. But if she had been born on August 25th, it's a better birthday. She's born on August 26th. It's my birthday. Yeah.
Oh. Happy birthday, Will.
Happy birthday
thank you.
week.
She's this close. Like 4 hours off, but
she tried to come out on the 25th.
I know. I when Justin sent the text saying that they were going to the hospital, I was like, we might do this. We might share a birthday. It didn't happen.
So close.
Yeah, I have no idea. Is that enough for it? No, it's been 3 minutes. It's not enough for a pre-roll. Not anymore. You guys do 12 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, well,
it's not necessary, but we do that.
weren't we going to blather about the rest of the convention? Because we didn't put it in the official. Right. Was anything?
Well, we probably should, because Andrew, you and I were there the whole time, and I think we saw each other for a total of 10 minutes over the course of the whole time.
I would basically just come up to Jen and shout, "I need emotional support," and then she would hug me. That was literally about what our relationship was like throughout the DNC.
Well, me and Cornel West, because that was my favorite moment of the entire convention. May I tell from my perspective what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So I found a couple of chairs and decided, like, these are my chairs. I'm never giving up these chairs. And the way that they were positioned is you were looking down the entire media row. And so at one point, we noticed that Cornel West is walking towards us. And so Andrew's sitting in a chair, and he just says hello to Cornel West. And next thing I know, 2 seconds later, they are hugging. Mm-hmm. I take a picture, and then he's gone. So it was like they were best friends for 10
Cornel
seconds.
West is a great hugger. Listeners, if Cornel West comes to your city as part of his absolutely doomed presidential campaign in the 18 states on which he currently has ballot access, go to it to get a hug. It will be the highlight of your week. He's a phenomenal hugger.
You're instantly his brother.
Yeah, he's great. He's a really nice guy. He's a nice guy. And like kickoff, like I interviewed him for about half an hour. It'll go up as we get closer to the election. And I kicked it off by going, we're both bearded guys from Oklahoma. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, we're basically the same person. And followed by 30 minutes of a very, very rambling interview that at no point even remotely coalesced around a policy objective. But it was still really nice.
I'm excited for that.
Fun. But Andrew, what do you think about the DNC? like compared to the RNC? These were your first conventions, right?
These were my first conventions,
Me
and
too.
I'm going to be a little ray of sunshine on this. I felt better about America having attended both conventions, which is not what I thought would happen. I thought I would come out going, oh, pox on both parties, and I still largely believe all of that. But the people that were attending them, though, the vast majority of people that I spoke to were nice, excited people that really love America. This is something I mentioned on my last show on the political orphanage, that I would like Republicans to know that the Democrats that were at the convention really like America a lot. There were a lot of flags and talk about how much they love America, and I thought it was terrific. I think politics is something that ought to be a lot more quotidian than it was for most of the people at the convention. But I do think that the rancor ought to be reserved for the policies that we're enacting to make the country better. And I thought that there were a lot of really nice, cool people. I hung out with the Oklahoma delegation. It was awesome. Loved hanging out with them. One of my friends that when I knew her was a bachelorette on that one show, The Bachelor. She's now in the state Senate, and I was hanging out with her, and she was a cool lady. And so, yeah, I had a great time. And I got that hug from Cornel West. I don't know if we talked about that.
Yes, we did. You know who else is a delegate is Samwise Gamgee. Sean Houston was a
Nice.
delegate from Indiana. So I didn't get to meet him, but a bunch of my friends did.
Wait, does he live in Indiana?
Apparently, I don't know.
Okay. What did you think, Jen? What were your vibes on it at the end of it?
Just like you, I liked everybody there. I think that's part of the intoxication of going to the party. Like any party, you tend to like the guests, right? So I liked the MAGA people and I liked the DNC delegates. And my episode on this on Congressional Dish is going to come out in the next couple of days. But like, I couldn't let go of the way that the Palestinian advocates were being treated the whole time, just being silenced, not being allowed to have a speaker, turning the lights off when there was a banner in support of Palestinian or an arms embargo against Israel. Like there was just a silencing of them. And then I got the icks big time by the way that not only did no one on the stage acknowledge the completely undemocratic way that Kamala was anointed to be the candidate. Like there was no, okay, we know that this was icky and you didn't get to vote for it, but next time we're going to do things differently. There was no apology. There was no acknowledgement of it whatsoever. And then when I would kind of mention it around any of the delegates, because I spent way too much time in security lines with the delegates, there was an instant just like they got super defensive about it, So I feel like this party that keeps talking about being the party of democracy has done a lot of undemocratic things. And I think we will talk about this more in the main show, but I could not let that go the entire time. And so I was there, and it was the people that were there were leaning in so much to the joy. They kept talking about all the joy, and you got Oprah there yelling joy. Like I wanted to feel that. And at certain moments I kind of did. I definitely didn't feel angry or the toxicity that I felt from the speakers at the RNC, but I wasn't able to lean in because I couldn't turn off the part of my brain that kept saying, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Like Barack Obama's talking and I'm like, you drone bombed people. You drone bombed 2 American citizens. I couldn't turn it off. So I found myself just deeply uncomfortable in both settings. Like there's a DC world I don't belong in. And that was representative of it.
Whereas I'm a quarter lizard person, so I can slither into that stuff a little easier. I think that's a very healthy attitude to have. Truly, I do. I think the reason I bring up the good vibes is I am very bothered that we're entering this period of history, or have been in the last 5 years, where there's a surprising amount of people that think that their next door neighbor is literally evil and is trying to ruin the country. And that's what I want to get across, is that I think that the people in there, my read on most of the delegates to both conventions is that they're all kind of weirdos. Like anybody that's that invested is a weirdo. And the bit that weirds me out is, as we've talked about on the program before, I don't want politics to be messianic. I want it to be boring and utterly devoid of romance. That's what I think. I think politics should be small and boring. Like we mentioned this before, but when I first started meeting Canadians back in 2004 or so, I would ask them, "Is Stephen Harper still your prime minister?" And they'd go, "Oh yeah." And I so envied them that second of pause they had where they had to think about it. I think that's the sign of a great country, when you have to think about who's running it, because it's such an important phenomenon on a day-to-day basis. So that's what I get to Chris. But that being said, though, Jen, props for not drinking the Kool-Aid. I think that's the really healthy attitude to have, of understanding that these are apparatuses and they're producing agitprop and they're producing hymns for the faithful. And you and me and Will and Justin, we're not faithful. We're intrepid anthropologists that are zipping in there with our binoculars and recording devices. And we can like the locals, but we're not of them.
Yeah, exactly. Will, did you watch any of this on TV, or are you normal in watching entertaining things?
I somehow saw more of the RNC than I did of the DNC. I guess mostly just because of the weird factor, right? Of like all the clips going viral versus like, I mean, there were viral clips of the DNC, but like I was mostly jealous that my county executive got a selfie with Lil Jon. I was like, why is that not me?
With who?
It's like
Lil Jon.
Lil Jon.
Oh, I thought you said Valjean, and I was like, from Les Mis, which would have been
he was
very
not,
surprising.
He was not there. No, I was genuinely jealous of that. Of like, why does he get that? I should get that. I probably have listened to more than he has, just judging by everything.
They had to bleep almost all of the words.
Yeah,
to
it's
his
very
song.
funny.
So the DNC had star power. The Democrats are the cool kids party when it comes to popular culture, and they've got Hollywood, they've got Oprah, so they're the cool kids table, and you get to hang out with the cheerleaders if you go to the DNC. The Republican Party, I think, got, I don't know what the ratings were, but my guess is that the Republicans got a surprising amount of viewage for two reasons during theirs. One, their candidate had just been shot, and so and that was less than a week old. And so everybody just kind of wanted to see what would happen. There was a lot of anticipation for that. But then the other part is that, and I use this in a fairly neutral way in this instance, their convention was super weird. It was super weird. There was a moment where I was sitting at C-SPAN, Jen's behind me, Justin is next to me, and I watch Hulk Hogan rip his shirt open and endorse former game show host Donald Trump for president. And I lean over to Justin and I go, this is the first thing that's made sense to me in the last 2 years. Because we've entered this bizarre period of America. Everything's so weird right now. It's so like there was some wonderful tweet that I saw where it was like trying to explain what I'm seeing on the TV of Hulk Hogan endorsing Trump to 12-year-old me. Like how that conversation would go. So Hulk Hogan, okay. So you know the guy from Home Alone 2 that comes in very briefly? That's Donald Trump. He's a real estate guy. He's going to host a game show. Hulk Hogan endorses him. This is a meaningful moment for the Republican Party. Yeah. So it had more of that odd, bizarre power to it than the Democrats did. They just had straight up unadulterated star power.
Yeah, the Democrats felt, I don't want to say normal because they're all, power hungry elites and all that, but I did feel just more normal just walking among them. Like there were no prom dresses with Kamala's face on it. There was no one dressed up as Kamala. Like the level of weird was way further down. But when we're speaking of star power, my favorite selfie was taken with BD Wong of Law and Order fame. I was so excited to meet him because I met members of Congress. Like I shook hands with Gavin Newsom, like these people that control the world. And here I am going out so hard because I'm meeting BD Wong and sent pictures to everyone, put it on Instagram. So that was my favorite star. And I have no idea what he was doing there. He never spoke. I don't think he was a delegate. I met him eating tofu.
Did we get to the bottom of why Beyonce didn't show? Because everybody was convinced Beyonce was going to be the headliner.
Yeah. Like I heard it. I was told by the chief of staff to a member of Congress that like this is confirmed. I was told that her people were there doing sound checks and stuff on Tuesday. I mean, the buzz in that arena was not if Beyonce was playing. It was like, well, we're getting Beyonce, but we don't know if we're getting Taylor Swift. Like that was the vibe. And then when Kamala came out, I honestly think that the reaction was kind of subdued because I know that like for me and up in the C-SPAN suite, we were all like, wait, Kamala, does this mean Beyonce's playing after her or are we not getting Beyonce?
We were here for a Beyonce concert. Who's this lady?
Yeah, I kept pulling out a lot of the stuff that I recorded on night 4. I was recording because I was waiting for Beyonce to come out, and they kept playing her songs, and so they were jerking us around.
They absolutely kept playing her song.
Oh,
they were
that I did not know. That's really funny.
Yeah, I'm in a group chat with some comedian friends of mine in New York, and we're bantering periodically. So I was rather than tweeting as I probably should have, I was just live texting to them. And,
well, there's no internet in there anyway, so you couldn't have gotten the tweets out.
Maybe, but they were like, as comedians, they were like, they are over telegraphing Beyonce. This is undercutting Beyonce. There's too much Beyonce they're building it up too much, and like now it was this weird they knew that she wasn't coming, and maybe this would do it. That if they played some Beyonce bumper songs, everybody would be like, well, we still got to hear Beyonce.
Yeah, I mean, you have to want, because the buzz was so everywhere, and apparently, even my husband, who was paying no attention to this, heard that Beyonce was coming, and he was back here in Austin. Everybody thought that. So how was it that the Harris Walls people were so tone deaf that they kept playing her songs and jerking us around and having her walk out to Beyonce and having us be confused at her big moment? That was not wise on
I
their
literally
part.
thought she was going to hand the mic to Beyonce. That's what I thought was going to happen. I think two things explain this. One, what we saw on Thursday was as if the Oscars were run by 400 former student council presidents. Imagine everybody you knew in high school that told you they were going to run for Congress. They were running the Oscars on Thursday night. So keep in mind, that's the personality type that is, it's not quite Hollywood. It's a different sort. And then the other thing I think is that I did a little bit of sleuthing on this, and it appears to just be a lot of very thirsty Twitter accounts that have blue check marks and no name that were just saying this crap in order to accrue more listeners or viewers or whatever, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then TMZ confirmed it at one point. TMZ's, I'm going to say, usually good about dead bodies. They're usually really, really good if somebody dies, but they flubbed it on this one.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was hearing this from people that you think would know, the chief of staff to a member of Congress. You would think that person would know. And with the confidence that he told it to me, it was treated as a sure thing. I mean, there were people, because I don't know if this pissed you off, Andrew, it pissed me off, but they didn't have any controls in Media Row. So any asshole who got into the United Center could walk into Media Row. And so it was completely mobbed. And I saw people walking in there with, Beyonce flair. They planned their outfits for the Beyonce concert that never happened. So, yeah, super weird. And I have looked on Twitter. There's no explanation for it. It's just...
I think this election is going to come down to, what is it? How many swing states are there at this point? There's 7, I think.
Yeah, 7 sounds right.
Something
7,
like that.
Right? That sounds right. I think that this whole election could really boil down to how many people in Michigan actually think J.D. Vance fucked a couch versus if Taylor Swift convinces 10,000 teenage girls in Pennsylvania to vote. So, if Taylor Swift wanted to do the election, what she could do right now is just say, I'm working on a new album, but I will burn it if Trump wins. I will only play it. I will only play it if Kamala Harris wins. And I think she could maybe sway the election.
I agree.
From Buffalo, New York, I am your guest host, Will Saddleberg. From Austin, Texas.
I'm Jen Briney.
And also from Austin, Texas.
Oh, incorrect.
Oh, wait, no, is Heaton? Where are you?
I don't know where Heaton is.
I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland, the Austin of Scotland.
You're in Scotland? I should have asked.
Direct from Chicago. I delayed it.
I had no
to
idea.
be with the people at the two-party conventions. Otherwise, I would have been here earlier. But yeah, I'm in Scotland right now.
And Justin and I didn't know he was going to Scotland until we were sitting in the C-SPAN booth with the man. So do not feel bad. He told no one.
All right. I was like, I must have missed a text in the group chat or something. I thought I was prepared for this. Already flubbing it, and we're 20 minutes in.
I'm terrible at telegraphing this both to people here and in Scotland. I forgot to tell anybody I was coming. And when you spend part of the year in one location, it's like waking up from a coma. Like I'll come in and squint at people and go, Harry, your name was Harry. So that's the face that I'm at the trip right now.
Okay, well, from Scotland, we've got Andrew Heaton. As already covered, Justin just had a beautiful baby girl, so I am stepping in to try to moderate a conversation about both RFK Jr. dropping out and the founder of Telegram being arrested in France, which is a ongoing story that continues to evolve literally as we record this. So who knows what else could happen there? But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to talk about this stuff with you guys. As I said up front, I don't know. I truly never thought I'd be on the show. I was like, maybe someday I'll show up at a live show when you guys are closer to me in the Northeast.
We slumped it with Tom Merritt last week. Anything could happen.
We sure did.
That's true. That's true. And I have a call with Tom later tonight. So like we're all just hanging out, chatting together. It'll be a good time. But okay, let's get into it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced his decision to suspend his campaign last Friday during a political rally held in Arizona, following speculation that he would be ending his candidacy and endorsing either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. During his speech, RFK Jr. acknowledged that he does not have a realistic path to the White House this November, but stressed he was not fully terminating his campaign. As part of this announcement, Kennedy is working to withdraw his name from ballots in battleground states like Pennsylvania, but will remain an independent option in non-contested states as he works to build a viable third party. RFK blamed media censorship and the two-party system for his inability to gain traction in this year's upcoming election. Kennedy joined Trump on stage during his own rally in Phoenix last week, calling the endorsement an honor and very nice, and vowing to work with his previous opponent to defeat the corrupt political establishment. In the days since, RFK Jr. sat down with an interview with Tucker Carlson, where he confirmed he will join the Trump transition team to help pick who's in the government should Trump win a second term in office. Tulsi Gabbard has also joined this list. That came out a little while after that interview. And then of course, because things keep spiraling out of control, I believe I've seen that RFK is having trouble getting his name off of some of those swing states. So we can talk about that as well. But Jen, I want to start with you. Should the Harris team have taken that meeting with RFK Jr. prior to his Trump endorsement?
I mean, absolutely. And I'm genuinely shocked that they didn't, because I guess I'm not shocked, because they have spent so much time trying to prevent him from running against them. Because I think a lot of us forget, because it's been quite a few months now, but he started as a candidate within the Democratic Party. He's a Kennedy after all. So his family is this historic Democratic Party institution, and so he tried to run as a Democrat, but then, as he pointed out, and we've talked about many times on the show, they ran a sham primary. Once he saw the writing on the wall, he went and ran as an independent. And the Democratic Party, like, he was raising money. He picked his vice presidential candidate, we think, because of the money, because Nicole Shanahan had Google money because she divorced the guy who invented Google. And so she was spending, I think, like $100 million, but so much of their money had to go to legal challenges that the Democratic Party was putting up because they wanted to keep RFK off the ballot. And this is something the Democratic Party has been doing the whole time. They tried to keep Trump off the ballot. They just had a case thrown out because they're trying to keep Jill Stein off the ballot. Like, they don't want anyone running against them. And so RFK is very bitter about this. And so the fact that the Harris campaign wouldn't even take a meeting with the man, I think it just shows a lot of, well, first of all, we just got out of their convention. There is so much arrogance in that party right now. They think they have it in the bag because Trump is his, own
Jen,
unique
real quick,
brand of awful.
when have they
Sure.
ever been overconfident about beating Donald Trump in the past? Let's just assume they're right.
I know. So to not even take a meeting and, looking at, so I listened to his speech to see why would he endorse Donald Trump. And I think there is quite a bit of bitterness against the Democratic Party that is going on here. We do know that he was offered a job. We don't know exactly which one, but the rumor from Nicole Shanahan is that he was offered Secretary of Health and Human Services. I've also heard FDA administrator. So there's definitely some, selfish motivations here. But he also said that he agrees with Trump on a few policies, and one of them was ending forever wars. I'm old enough to remember the George W. Bush administration when it was the Democrats that were against forever wars. So I feel like that's something that they could have had a conversation about with the Harris campaign. He also said he wants to end the childhood disease epidemic. And with RFK Jr., we don't know what that means, but that also sounds like something the Democrats you would think would get behind. He said securing the border, which was something that a lot of speakers actually talked about at the DNC, even though the RNC has made it like their central issue. There's definitely support for that in the Democratic Party. And there was that bipartisan border bill that was co-written by the Democrats. So that's another one where the Harris campaign could have reached out to him. He said protecting freedom of speech. That's a little tougher because the Democrats are trying to censor everything. He wanted to stop corporate capture of regulatory agencies. That doesn't sound like Republicans to me. Like, classically, that is something that I think the Democrats have wanted to do. And having just come from their convention, they talked about corporatism quite a bit. And then he wanted to end intelligence agencies interfering in our elections. That's another one where maybe he is closer to Trump on that than the Democrats. But my point that I'm trying to make is there is agreement between RFK Jr. and the Democrats theoretically, and the fact that they won't even speak to the man after sabotaging his campaign as an independent, for not letting him run as a Democrat. Like, I think it's just arrogance and a missed opportunity. And I kind of get why RFK is going towards Trump, because clearly the Democrats don't even want to talk to this member of the Kennedy family. And if he can become Secretary of Health and Human Services, with vaccines and, chemicals that are in vaccines being such a big issue for him for decades, this is an opportunity for him to make a real difference. I can see why he would take it, even though it does involve trusting Trump's word, which everyone who's ever worked with him might advise him that can't be trusted. But I kind of get it.
Heaton. Will RFK's presence on the ballot in swing states, or I should say, okay, so let me start over. If RFK fails to withdraw his name from select swing states, which we've seen, I think it's Michigan said, like,
I have it written down. He might have to remain on. So there's 10 battleground states where he wants to remove his name.
Yes.
And he might have to remain on Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina because we're so close to the election. They say that they can't delete the name.
Could this move backfire in terms of, because obviously his goal is to get Trump elected now. Could it backfire at least in those 3 states and perhaps like earn enough support from would-be Trump voters to push, say, Michigan towards the Harris campaign?
No, I don't think so. I think there's no chance of it. I stand by my position that the election will likely default on how many people think J.D. Vance actually fucked the couch. That is a more pressing electoral concern at this time. The reason that I say that is twofold. Generally speaking, third-party candidates don't draw from voters that would go Republican or Democrat. They draw from people that weren't otherwise going to vote. I think you can make a case against that with Ralph Nader back in 2000, but generally speaking, that's what happens. More to the point, though, when the presidential candidate himself has dropped out and is telling you not to vote for him and is telling you to vote for the other guy, the people that are like, I don't believe him, I'm going to vote for him, he'll come around. Like those people are not going to be a core voter demographic that are pervious to other voting metrics that you can do. So I don't think he's going to swing it. I think that he made a smart call dropping out. He's catching flack from some people that are portraying him as feckless because he got a meeting with Trump and he has now endorsed Trump and has been promised something in the administration moving forward. But it also turns out he tried to meet with Kamala Harris. And so the implication is that he's an opportunist that was willing to sell his endorsement for whoever would give him the cabinet position. And my retort to that is exactly how third-party politics works. That's exactly how third-party politics works. The libertarians and the Greens are actually kind of an aberration in that regard because they're trying to be permanent national parties. But when you go back through American history and you look at what is normally a third-party movement, it rises up and it goes, we want the silver standard or whatever it wants. and the Republicans and Democrats ignore it for a while, or whoever it is, the Whigs and the Democrats ignore it, and then one of them goes, "What do you fucking want? Silver standard? Okay, fucking fine. Well, okay, we're for the silver standard now." And then all 8 of those people come into the party, and it's enough that it moves the margin. So third parties, when they're one issue or a tight amount of issues, and Kennedy is a tight amount of issues, I think, they achieve their efficacy by being loud and getting absorbed into one of the 2 major parties. So I don't ethically fault him for doing that. In terms of should the Democrats have met with him or not, I'm going to make a distinction between the ought and the should. The ought being the moral side of this, which I think Jen has alluded to. I'm going to go with the should from the practical side of this and say from an electoral standpoint, no. I don't think it makes sense for Kamala Harris, just in terms of getting elected, to meet with RFK Jr. The Harris campaign was kind of an overdrive at the convention to go, hey, everybody, look, she's normal. How about that? Pretty normal, right? Look at her husband. You could totally hang out with her husband. He's not weird.
Especially if you're a nanny.
Yeah. I like Doug. I had never seen Doug before. I like Doug. He seems like a nice guy. I like her husband.
I do too.
But they were. I think Kamala is similar to Joe Biden in that I don't think she's an ideologue. I think that she is a party member that occupies where the energy in the party is, and that means kindly that she is more pragmatic. It means cynically that she is feckless. But all of that is to say that she ran as a much more progressive candidate in 2019 and failed very, very quickly as a candidate. Now in 2020, she's not running for a primary. She's running for the general election, and so she has to be more of a centrist candidate, and she's trying to walk the lane of just not being weird lefty Democrat enough that she can get the people in the middle. And if the goal here is I'm a sane, normal person, and you could just vote for me and stuff will be normal, then RFK would potentially rock that boat because the Democratic Party has put in a lot of effort to make RFK look like a kook. Perhaps he is.
RFK helped a little bit too.
Yeah.
The bear story was not a great assistance.
And then there was a
there.
fucking whale story. Like, I just learned about the bear.
The whale story also not good, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the whale story?
He like took his daughter to a beach where he knew there was a beached whale, and he like cut the head off the whale. It was dead already, but like he cut the head off the whale and then like strapped it to the top of the
whale
car.
Head. We'd all do it.
And then the story was like the daughter was like, yeah, we had to wear like bags with like cutouts for us to breathe over our head because like the guts of the whale were like spilling into the car on the way home.
But what did he do with the head?
He really likes skulls, like animal skulls. He just wanted the skull.
Jesus Christ.
Jen, if I could have a cruelty-free whale skull on my mantle, I would totally have a cruelty-free whale skull on my mantle.
I actually believe you.
I don't fault him at all for this. It looks super cool. I don't fault him at all for that. But I mean,
Jesus.
RFK's, let's say, a bit kooky.
Yeah,
and,
worms, bears, and whales.
The Democrats are trying very hard, and like I mean, this was part of why Tim Walz got tapped. Is Tim Walz came into the national spotlight saying, "Look, those guys are weird." That was kind of the unofficial campaign slogan of Tim Walz. So it doesn't look good for them to get a weirdo now and bring him into the tent.
That's true. And electorally, when I look at all this and just kind of knowing people that were thinking about voting for RFK, my sense of it wasn't that people were super excited about voting for RFK. They were excited about voting for someone who wasn't a Republican or a Democrat. So I think that a lot of the people that were side-eyeing RFK for their votes are now going to be looking harder at Jill Stein and Chase, what's his face?
Chase Oliver.
Thank you. I think they are going to be the beneficiaries of RFK dropping out.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, it's if you look at his poll numbers, I guess, like how they dropped over the summer, I bet a lot of the people who would have considered maybe voting for Trump over Biden, like I wonder if a lot of that fell away when Biden dropped out, right? Like maybe this play makes more sense if it's still Biden Trump, and someone who was going to vote for RFK was like, I just really don't trust Biden in his current state in the White House. That's not really there anymore, and so they're like, well, I'm I'm either already part of a party or I really want to vote third party, as you say, Jen.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, being at the DNC and having witnessed Biden and Kamala speak to their party, Biden, there were so many people leaving in the middle of his speech. Like, it looked like it was the fourth quarter in a blowout. People were just leaving. I
am one of those people. I literally
Did you
thought
leave?
I was like, was it him? Yeah, I think. Yeah. I left because I was like, I don't want to have to deal with this throng of people. It was literally like being at a football game. I was like, all right, if I leave now, I'll watch it on my phone in the Uber. Very shouty speech. And
he was angry old man.
Jen, I'm with you 100%. Like, what was weird about Biden, I don't buy the stuff about how the DNC, I thought this for a minute. I've reversed my position. I don't think the DNC intentionally delayed him. I think that the DNC invited a bunch of blowhards on stage and then refused to use the old style crook from the sides to grab him and bring him out like in a vaudeville
play
act.
music like the Academy Awards.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up.
Because this is the Academy Awards as run by 400 former student council presidents. So I think that's why that happened. But what was amazing was the sitting president of the United States is a has-been in the Democratic Party. He is actively a has-been. He is they should introduce him as the presumptive former president of the United States. Like, we need to come up with a title that's like more emphatic than lame duck. Obama doesn't have that. Obama is like permanent standard bearer of the Democratic Party, hand of the king for life. Like, he was a rock star there.
So
everybody
was
loved
Hillary.
Obama.
I mean, to Hillary's credit, she gave a really good speech, in which
She did.
It's hard for her to look authentic, and she seemed really authentic in it too. She knocked it out of the park. But there were no one left during Hillary, no one left during Barack, and he was the end of the night, and no one left for Kamala. So you could see, like, physically see that there was a difference in excitement between Biden and Kamala, because even if they were serious about the "We Love Joe" bullshit, they would have stayed for his speech. It wasn't, I mean, it was pretty long, but it wasn't that long. And so I do think that people that were on the Democratic side and waffling, going, oh my God, I just can't with Trump or Biden. I don't feel comfortable with either of them. I think a lot of those people are going to be more comfortable with Kamala, because she is, like, she's well-spoken. She's very smart. Like, there are things to like about her that Biden just couldn't handle. And I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the debates. I think she's going to wipe the floor with Trump in a way that we also know that Biden couldn't do. So I do think that some of the support for RFK probably went back to Kamala after that switch was made.
Anything could happen in the next 3 months, and probably will. Who the fuck knows? I think if Biden really, really wanted to be selfless and have a thank you, Joe moment, he would resign and make her the incumbent president, and they would stage some kind of crisis in advance that she could solve day 5. That way the Democrats could go, look, she's been president for 5 days and she's got a ceasefire agreement. Like, if Joe was really serious, he would do that. And that might still happen, by the way. The October surprise could be that we get President Kamala Harris, regardless of what happens in the election. But let's say for now that it is just a normal election from here on out, that there's no future curves in the time-space continuum, no assassination attempts, no brainworms. It's just what we got moving forward. I think Kamala will probably win. It'll be a squeaker, but the reason that I think she's going to win is, to build on what Jen said, that Trump and Biden both are old guys that the country associates with stale anger and fear. And Kamala is comparatively young. We don't really know her that well. She's something of a Schrodinger's cat. Perhaps she's a super progressive. Perhaps she's a centrist. We don't really know. And I think that same did J.D. Vance fuck a couch demographic that is ultimately going to determine the outcome of this election is apt to look at Kamala and go, I don't know, she seems nice. I don't associate her with a pandemic or with all of the anger of the last 8 years. I'll just vote for this new person. And I think basically just being new will push the swing voters her direction.
Well, and first woman president. There's a lot of people that want to see a first woman president. Like, I even got a little emotional. I was emotional for a lot of reasons walking out of the United Center, just the fact that I was there. But the fact that this might be the first woman president and I was physically there when she accepted the nomination, doesn't matter what you think about the politics or any of that. Like, that's a powerful moment. And I do know women who were not excited about this election that are excited just for that, because no matter what, that would be something to celebrate in an election where there's really not much to celebrate no matter who wins. But that would be a thing, and I do think it's going to drive some people to the polls.
Could be, and Democrats certainly love that, right? Like I feel like I got that out of my system in 2016, where I was like, wow, a lady.
But she lost.
I know she lost, but I know. But I feel like credit to Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton's the one who broke that glass ceiling in the national mind, where after Hillary, it was, if we were to go back to like the 90s, there would have been mainstream conversations about, well, like, can a woman be president? There would have been, it would have been in the room in the 90s, maybe not the majority of opinion, but it would have been able to get a seat on the McLaughlin group at some point. And Hillary broke that glass ceiling, and like no one really questions anymore on in either side, I think, whether a woman could be a capable executive. And so for me, that's less of a barrier, but I'm also a lot less identitarian and a lot more irritatingly ideological, and also I'm a dude. So I'm probably not as much of a target demo.
That's true.
I like your point, Heaton, though, about like not having as strong of feelings as I feel like this is the first time since like 2012 that like if you ask someone random on the street, they won't immediately be like, oh, I love them, or oh, I hate them about a presidential candidate, right? They might just be like neutrally positive or neutrally negative, but not start like screaming at you in one way or the other about like how they feel about this person, which is not true in 2016, was not true in 2020. So yeah,
2016 was the plate breaking election. There were a lot of plates at Thanksgiving that got sacrificed to that particular one.
Well, I think not over. When I said that I liked the MAGA people, I had a pretty harsh reaction to it. People are still like losing their minds when you say anything positive about the other side.
Yeah, this is why I needed like immediate friend support from Jen, because that like I am very aware of this. I have been living this hell since about 2010 when I worked for conservative Democrats in Congress, and I went in there and I thought, well, everybody will like us because we're kind of conservative, but we're Democrats, so we can be friends with both sides. That's not how that fucking works. You know how that works? The Republicans go, fuck you, you're a Democrat, and also, if your district kind of leans in the middle, I bet I can fucking take you out. And they did, and they made the entire Democratic Party more progressive as a result. And then the Democrats, meanwhile, are like, you're a goddamn traitor. And so did that for a bit, did stand up in D.C., would make fun of Republicans, make fun of the Democrats, thought that they would appreciate me as an equal opportunist. That is not what happens. What happens is half the room laughs while the other half folds their arms, and then the other half reverses position and laughs while the other, like, it's awful. And we're entering that period. I'm going to fucking hate it. Jen and our friend that's Cornell West are going to have to be on call for hugs over the course of maybe, you know what, maybe if I'm not hanging out with Jen and Justin, maybe I'll go to Cornell West's election night party just so I can get a guaranteed hug, or I'll try to get Jen and Justin to go and get the best of all worlds.
That sounds like a good plan. I have one last question for Will.
Mm-hmm.
Did we just get another Heatonism when he said peace fire agreement? Was that a thing that just happened?
That also sounds like a Cheney policy, like some kind of weird Orwellian Dick Cheney. We're gonna have peace fire.
Peace fire. Peace through strength.
It's not an invasion. It's a peace fire.
One of these weeks, I will go through every backlog episode and find all of the Heatonisms and make a supercut. I will do this eventually. It will be like, it might have to be during like the holidays or something when I have nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But
that would be amazing.
I do need to make a supercut of that at some point.
I bet our listeners would help you out too with like timestamps and shit.
Genuinely, please do. If you want to send me time codes, I will like throw this together. I will make it a whole thing. So you can I don't know, at me on Twitter. My email is just my name. You can figure it out.
And then I'll take it and find other listeners and somehow turn it into a cool rap.
There we go.
This is how I will enter American pop culture as ironically hip.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong helps support the show and Justin's newborn child and keeps me employed as the editor so that I can make this supercut that we were just talking about. This week we'll be talking about NASA's decision to keep 2 astronauts in space until 2025 over fears surrounding Boeing's Starliner capsule because that company just can't catch a break. Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. Pavel Durov, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, the founder and CEO of Telegram, was arrested in France over the weekend after landing in Paris. His detainment is part of a broader investigation into several serious charges against Durov and his messaging platform. French authorities have cited 12 charges in total, including complicity in organized crime, facilitating illegal transactions, distributing child pornography, and failing to cooperate with law enforcement on surveillance requests. Durov's detention has sparked significant concern within the tech community and among privacy advocates who view it as a potential threat to the principles of online privacy and free speech. Among those defending Durov online include Elon Musk and Edward Snowden, with hashtag #FreePavel going viral on Twitter. This arrest comes at a time when users are more aware of messaging client privacy than ever, with Telegram selling itself as a platform that prioritizes privacy and encryption. While these features have made it popular among users seeking secure communication, they have also attracted criticism for enabling criminal activities, specifically cybercrime, drug trafficking, and the spread of extremist content. Durov has denied any wrongdoing, with Telegram stating its founder has nothing to hide and criticizing the accusations as unfounded, saying in a statement that it is absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform. I also want to add that as of today, he has been released from custody, though not yet cleared of those charges, and will be due in court ahead of a possible indictment. Heaton, is a platform or its owner responsible for use of that platform?
Boy, this one's really tough for me. Do I side with free speech or the nation of France? Gosh, I wonder which way I'll go on this. Yeah, it's bullshit. All of it boils down to this. You have one of two options when it comes to privacy apps like this. Do you want to have an app that lets dissidents in Russia communicate and also allows for bad things to happen illegally elsewhere? Or do you want to get rid of that app and crack down on the crime that might happen here, knowing that they're going to lock up the dissidents in Russia or China or Ukraine or anywhere else that it's operating? To me, that's a pretty easy one to do. I am more concerned about tyrannical regimes abroad, potentially at home, but mostly abroad, than I am about the criminal charges that they're bringing up. And I don't think that the criminal stuff would go away, but I am very confident that the dissidents would if you were to remove these kind of apps. So for me, the cost-benefit analysis is pretty clean on this. But on a more foundational level to your question, Will, no, I don't think that the platform should be held. I think that there should be minimum restraint on the platform. Section 230 of, what is it, the Internet Act? I can't remember. Jen might know.
Communications Act of
Thanks.
some year.
Yeah, 230, when people bring it up, which is very robust in terms of free speech laws, and it's the whole thing that allows Google Maps to operate and not be sued, and I'm in favor of maintaining 230. But even 230 has exceptions for if a company willfully knows that there is child trafficking or child pornography. If it willfully knows that and it facilitates it or it fails to stop it, then it can be prosecuted. I'm fine with that, but there's a difference between having a very narrow remit of we can prosecute a company for allowing this stuff to happen when it could stop it, versus what France is doing and what the European Union more broadly is doing, which is, hey, we don't like that we can't snoop. And that's really what's going on here. When Elon Musk interviewed Donald Trump a couple weeks ago, the high poobah of Muckety Muck's undersecretary's deputy attaché or whatever the fuck they got in the European Union, immediately went out and said, hey, just so you know, we might censor this if it has misinformation in it. So you have somebody in the European Union saying, we are going to censor, just in Europe, information about an American political candidate and a high-tech CEO or a high-level CEO to shield our people from it, because that's kind of how they think. And this gets into my France problem. You go back to 1776 and 1789, what America rightly did was go, maybe we shouldn't have any fucking lords. These lords suck. Maybe we shouldn't have bishops tell us what to think and tell us what we can say out loud. Let's get rid of the bishops. Let's make them voluntary. And France went, we're going to keep them, but we're going to elect them. And I don't like this element of the European Union. The European Union tends to have charitably a much more balanced approach towards free speech and societal harmony. And what that ultimately means is that if you are an asshole or a heretic, that you go to jail. And I want to have a big, messy, chaotic society, and that includes assholes and heretics and sometimes criminals. But I think that the overall gains from it is worth it.
So, yes, I agree with pretty much all of that big picture.
Including the shit about France. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I actually really like France. I took French in high school, which is... Yeah, not very helpful considering I forgot all of it and all of these documents to figure out what they're charging Telegram for are going to be in French. I wish I still remembered it. But, there's two things. Big picture, I agree with you that I just feel like the idea that these platforms are responsible for everything that happens on them, like I liken it to, like I was thinking, how did this work before we had these online platforms? And I know that I used to buy my weed from a Target parking lot. Met a very nice kid. He had the good Cali weed when I lived in Massachusetts. And under no circumstances, if we had gotten caught for those transactions, was Target going to be held liable because we were in their parking lot. So, and that's how they used to distribute child porn. Like you would have the magazine and you'd hand it in a park or like whatever. And it was never like the park's fault because this was happening on their property. And so I kind of look at these platforms as the property where these things are happening. So, but then when it comes to this particular arrest, I also can't find exactly what he was arrested for, which I'm finding very strange. Like the arresting documents haven't been released. The French had to either indict him or release him by today. And so before we went on the air, I checked and he wasn't released, like he's being transported somewhere, but he left the anti-fraud office, which I found kind of interesting because in 2019, the Securities and Exchange Commission here in the United States had a settlement with Telegram. It was $18.5 million because the SEC accused them of illegally raising funds from U.S. investors and using their cryptocurrency, Toncoin, to finance their business. And so when you can look that like the Telegram people have their own cryptocurrency, and so there's a lot of like financial fraud ickiness that I'm seeing just in the news about this. But again, we also don't have the news about this. So I'm wondering how much are we wondering, saying like, well, this is about not cooperating with law enforcement, where it could just be financial fraud. Like in which case arresting the CEO, if he was aware of financial fraud with the cryptocurrencies or whatever the fuck is going on, the fact that he's been held in the anti-fraud unit, I find that interesting. And then also the European Commission said that this arrest is not related to the Digital Services Act, which is the one that requires platforms to police for illegal content. So I'm confused about what he was arrested for in general. And even though there's a lot of chatter about this, I don't think anybody really knows yet. So I think we should also keep that in mind, that this might have nothing to do with censorship, but we need more details.
Yeah, looking at even so I was researching last night and then this morning, and Casey Newton's platformer newsletter I think is solid on this, at least to give some background. But like to your point, Jen, that newsletter starts with like a subhead that is, why was Durov arrested? And like it points out that it doesn't seem to be the DSA, or the EU has said it's not the DSA, so it seems to be French law, and it has something to do with an investigation that started on July 8th against an unnamed person on a dozen potential charges, including complicity in spreading CSAM, that's the child pornography, correct? Complicity in spreading drugs, money laundering, and refusing to cooperate with law enforcement, which seems to suggest that Durov is the man they were investigating. But it does also seem like, unless he was more involved with this stuff like directly, it seems like the arrest is based just around the fact that he owns the platform that people were performing these actions on, as opposed to participating in them and working to, instead of like handing data over to French authorities or any kind of authorities asking for it, was just being like, well, we run a privacy focused messaging platform. I'm not going to just hand over data to you.
Yeah.
And he's had this happen before. This is why he left Russia. Russia went, hey, you're maintaining all these communications between Ukrainians that live in Russia. You should hand them over. And he went, no, I'm not going to do that. And he left. That's why he went to Dubai. Noting that despite what listeners think, I am not actually an expert in French communications law. And so it is entirely possible, Jen's point, it's entirely possible that there is something that we are missing. Absent forthcoming details on that, my inclination is to say this looks to me very much like a censorship mechanism. Macron, the president over there, last year following one of their riots, like the British have rugby, the French have riots, that's their national pastime. When they were having yet another goddamned riot instead of fucking working. I don't know where this comes from. It's because I'm in Scotland. I'm sorry. It's this weird British thing. I go over here and anyway, I've had nothing but pleasant experiences. I like the French people. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know. Anyway,
it's just there's something about the American way that we just hate the French.
And it's
I
weird
think that's what it is.
There are only they're our longest ally too.
Right.
Like it's this weird thing. Like we exist twice over because France supported us. But anyway,
but Heaton, I have like multiple friends who feel the same way you do, where they're like, I don't know, something about them. I don't like the vibe.
I think that they have a very different orientation in terms of government, and I find it very irritating a lot of the time. Like I had on Alain Bertaud, who's a really, really cool guy at NYU, and he was talking about how you can't have sales on books in France because it's considered unfair to competition to discount books. And I was like, my head exploded, and I was like, we should immediately end NATO. This is why did we fight for these people? But getting back to the censorship thing, Macron, following one of their riots, said, quote, we have to think about the social networks, about the bans we'll have to put in place. When things get out of control, we might need to be able to regulate or cut them off. Mm-hmm. That's the mindset of the French government, which is if these are causing problems for us as a government, we need to restrict them. We need to end them. And the charges that you bring up, Will, I think are very much emblematic of that, of child porn, which you're going to hear a lot more about because that one's much easier to paint somebody as a shitheel on. But also money laundering, drugs, all the things. But the inbuilt part of this is when you have privacy from the government, you might need it at some point because you might be expressing an opinion that is unpopular. Our group meets on Telegram for this exact reason, that we are afraid that if we say something unpleasant,
we meet on Signal.
We're on Signal.
Is that what we're on? I don't know.
I've never used Telegram.
I use Telegram for several group chats related to my day job, and generally like it as a platform, but like we're mostly on that just because we're switching phones all the time.
Well, okay,
part of my
let me
job.
back up.
So
we're using Signal, the privacy app, for privacy.
Yes.
Are we
because it's
not?
automatically encrypted.
Yeah, right.
Telegram isn't.
It's not. Yeah, you have to activate like a secret mode in not secret as in it's hard to find, but as secret mode as in your chat is secret to turn on end-to-end encryption. By default, Telegram chats are not end-to-end encrypted.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but if we're going to shit on the French for this, we also need to shit on our own government because this is why they're banning TikTok. And in fact, in my TikTok episode, when I read the TikTok ban now law, they didn't just ban TikTok. They banned anything that is even partially owned by a foreigner. And so I specifically said Telegram is in danger because this law has been passed. And Telegram's actually either temporarily or permanently been banned already in 31 countries. And so the fact that this is happening in France, they are our ally. They kind of see similarly on these issues than the Biden administration does. Just because this is happening in France, I don't think that really makes a big difference considering our government's acting the exact same way.
As the official ambassador of the United States to the Eastern Hemisphere, I must concede that Jen is right on this point. The American government likewise has a black eye in a number of fields, not least of which is privacy. A headline that we could have talked about this week that would dovetail with this is that Mark Zuckerberg, I believe in a congressional hearing, said that we kowtowed to the Biden administration. Let's say the government. We kowtowed to the American government. We regret that. But kind of just came out and said, like we were pressured to censor information. We were pressured by the American government to censor misinformation. And I think this is much more intuitive to an American audience or a principally American audience of free speech laws are good. But when I talk to folks over here in Europe, Europe and Britain, since I'm not technically in Europe at the moment, there's a lot of the time this idea of like, well, as long as the government's being reasonable, it makes sense that the government would squelch dangerous ideas or harmful ideas. And it's sort of the same logic of, as long as you're doing nothing illegal, you have no reason to worry. You don't need privacy if you're a legal citizen. And my response to that is that it might feel that way now, but someday you might be on the outs there. And it might be that the opinion you hold is one that is no longer appropriate for society. And free speech laws don't exist to protect the median. They exist to protect the edges. Like, you don't need free speech laws for stuff that's popular. If you need free speech stuff for the assholes and the heretics. I don't care as much about the assholes, but I do really care about the heretics.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to this line that is in their FAQ that has been going around, which is, question, there's illegal content on Telegram. How do I take it down? And the answer is, all Telegram chats and group chats are private among their participants. We do not process any requests related to them. It's just that Telegram sees those chats as like, that's not our business. Like, that's, you guys are doing whatever you want on there, but like, we have nothing to do with it. And to the point where, like, they say, you know, sticker sets or channels, those are publicly available, and therefore they do have an abuse email that you can send stuff in. But in terms of like direct messages, I think they see those as conversations that you could have, you know, in your house, right? That like you wouldn't be
They're private.
sent to jail for, right? Yeah. Exactly. Like, not necessary, right? So like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's, it kind of all comes down to how they see the platform, and obviously France does not see it as a good thing. Yeah.
Or to be fair to France, Europe doesn't see it as a good thing.
Yes, of course.
Europe's the United States.
Yeah. we're better rhetorically about it. And I'll say our courts are good about it. Our administration's not good about it. Jen, I liked your metaphor of the property. I think that's very salient. I'll come up with probably a more attenuated example, but if a mafia don was getting electricity from OG&E, we wouldn't prosecute OG&E for being part of the mafia. You know, it might be another thing. If there was a big factory called We Sell Sex Slaves and the electrical company didn't cut off their power, okay, maybe. But in a situation where it's just, we deliver this good to a nameless entity, we're not involved in the content, we just provide this thing, that's the situation, I think.
Or if like the plotting of a crime of a mafia boss is in an Italian restaurant. Like, they don't shut down the restaurant because the conversation happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. We've solved it.
We solved it. We've solved Telegram.
Good job, Will. Good job.
Yeah, it's because I'm here. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. I read all of these emails out loud to myself yesterday so that I would try not to stumble over them during this segment. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com.
Well, we have an editor, so if you stumble, he'll fix it for you.
Yeah,
he would. Oh, yeah, I'm not. I don't want to bog his
does Justin have to edit the show this week? Is that how that works? Is it like
that's
a Freaky Friday
that's
situation?
Only fair, right? I think it's going to be the quickest edit I've ever done because I was here for it, so I know everything that's in the show.
Yeah.
Chicago episode writes, I love that you invited Tom on the show. He sits around silently for 20 minutes, and then the first thing he talks about is eggs.
His microphone didn't work. He didn't really have a choice.
Speaking of, Will spent a long time trying to make the microphone sound better in post, writes, wait, your microphones in Chicago didn't work? Were you delegates? I did my best. Yes, it was not great.
We apologize to everyone for that disaster, especially Will, because you had to deal with it.
I apologize for nothing. You should have physically been there with the people that made it. They were fine. You all that stayed at home got what you deserved.
There's some truth to that.
The some of the feedback, like the microphone feedback, just I was doing my best with an Audition has like that like visual eraser tool trying to like scrub some of it out, but
well, when you're in the room, it would just like scream in our ears. There's a few times where I bet you can hear the audience just being like, ah!
I cut it out.
Did you?
As much as when it got really bad, that is all gone from the episode. So
can you hear me getting tendonitis? Because I think I did at one point from feedback. Dude, out of curiosity, Will, have you played around with Adobe's enhanced speech tool?
No, I haven't. I have all their new like podcast stuff and all of that. I have not like played around with yet. Although I do think I have access to it now.
I would commit. We're going to talk shop, listeners. Just take a break for a second. I find it really useful. So I was
Cool.
in London a couple of years ago, and I forgot to bring 2 mics, and so I gave my mic to my guest and was like, in my head, God damn it, I'm going to have to get this smartphone out, record on my smartphone. I'm going to have to ADA the entire thing. I'm like 50 miles from France. And so my plan was record the episode, and then I was just going to re-record the entire bit for me. It was going to be a real pain in the ass. I ran it through the Adobe Enhance thing, and it worked great. It sounded like studio level. It basically creates a voice cloning program of you, and then when there's a problem, it spackles in that reproduction of your voice. It's really interesting. It works really well.
That's
Cool.
I have the tab open. I do have access to it now, so I will play around with that. That might have. I actually don't know how much I could have done to really fix it, because there's only so much. But
yeah.
In general, like the future stuff, that will definitely come in handy.
We salute you for your efforts.
I tried. I was texting Justin, being like, I'm doing my best, and he was like, it's a live show, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right.
He was just texting back, the baby's crowning. Leave me alone.
Exactly, yeah.
Ew.
On profit caps, Down Jones fan writes, for most of its existence, the stock market was viewed as a speculative, risky place for individuals who had foregone present consumption, saved money, and were willing to accept losses in exchange for greater gains. Those not willing to take on that risk could simply hold their money and expect that its purchasing power would increase over time, as gains in productivity driven by technological advancement would cause the prices of goods to fall. The rise of the managerial elite, several wars, and the creation of the modern welfare state has caused governments to embrace inflation to pay for these projects. Risk-taking behavior and abnormal present consumption are incentivized in a system where the purchasing power of money can be expected to fall over time.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I remember my grandfather used to talk about the stock market. He would say, play the stock market. And I just remember as a kid, it was considered gambling. And now it's considered the smartest thing you can do to become an investor or whatever. And I just, like I said, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And it's like our grandparents understood that it could be a very negative thing. And yet we're being told it's a smart retirement plan. So there's a disconnect.
Is it just that our grandparents were there for like the Great Depression, and so that maybe they took that lesson away? Or
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, maybe.
I read a book a couple of years ago that talked about. I mean, it talked about how we tend to be tethered to whatever the economic situation was when we came of age. So like you'll find like boomers will have very strong thoughts on what coffee ought to be priced, and like I am now entering the phase of my life where I can't tell if I wandered into like a twee bullshit coffee shop or whether I'm just old, because the prices are changing, and like what struck me as a very good salary when I was 20 is now worth less than it would be today because of inflation, and I'm having to adjust to that. For people that grew up in our age bracket, that came of age in the 90s, the stock market was booming. And so we have kind of a generational impulse of like, you want to get in on it. You don't want to be left behind. I think for people that were a part of the greatest generation or the silent generation, they have much more stringent memories of the stock market. And so they're more cautious on it.
Yeah.
But overall, though, I very much agree with the position on this. I think if you're going to have an inflationary economy, as we do, where if you park money in the bank, you're losing money, or you're really missing out on opportunity costs, then you have kind of no course of option other than to put it in the stock market, and you end up facilitating this kind of behavior.
Progressive profits tax writes, an idea that didn't come up in your price profit controls discussion. What about a progressively increasing tax on profits? Either by total dollar amount or profit margin, you pay a higher tax percentage the larger your profits, just like income tax. Thoughts? I'm sure it won't happen in Congress, but it's maybe more economically feasible than caps on prices or profits. To complete the square, some of the tax dollars collected could go to fund food and housing assistance for low-income folks most harmed by higher prices.
I think you want to take it, Jen?
Do you want to talk about how you're against it first?
Sure, but I'm happy to defer to you if you're in favor of it. You want to talk about it?
Go ahead. Go first. That's
okay,
fine.
I'll go first. Thanks. I think what you're describing, listener, is driving the wrong way, only slower. So I still think you're driving the wrong direction, but you're doing it at a slower speed. So I appreciate the temperamental attempt to kind of split the difference, but I think it's foundationally suspect. The reason that I say that is two things. You don't want to run an economy where you punish people for success. And then the other part is profit margins they're very helpful, and they send signals in terms of where you should allocate resources and invest money. So if you've got something that has like 30% profit margins, businesses go, well, we should get into that. And they produce more of the stuff. And then hopefully, if there's not barriers to entry, they start competing with the other businesses. The profit margins start to decline as competition takes hold. So in terms of where the government would get involved here, it would be what we've talked about previously on this program of making sure that monopolies are not abusing the market and abusing consumers. But in terms of the profit margin going high or low, I don't think you want to cap it or slow it down. That's a useful signal that incentivizes more of the stuff that you want.
Yeah, and I don't think profit itself is the problem. I think that profit being divvied out to people that don't have any actual connection to a business is a big part of the problem. I feel like having 20% of a business go to just random investors all over the world, that's where I see it as wasted money, especially if people, like I think of Walmart all the time, where we are subsidizing Walmart with our tax money because so many people that work there have to get food stamps because they're paid so poorly. So I don't really know what the solution to this is, but when I'm talking about profits, like for something like food, that was the discussion that we were having. Food is an essential in every single person's life. And so to have so much of the food ecosystem's dollars going to shareholders, where people who are producing the food can't buy food for their own families, like that's where I think the disconnect is. And so do we need to tax profits? I don't know. I'd almost be more willing to like raise the minimum wage to make sure that every single person who's working for those companies is at least benefiting from the success of that business, because that's not happening right now. Right now, labor is considered a line item that should be kept as little as possible. And so we do have people working 2, 3, 4 jobs for insanely profitable companies. And I think that's a big problem in the United States. If you can't afford the product that you're making, there's a problem. So I think there's different ways to handle it, but I don't really disagree with Andrew in that I don't think you want to punish profits. I just don't think that you want to reward freeloaders who have nothing to do with the business, who are collecting most of the rewards of the success.
Stock market good writes, I know Jen doesn't like the stock market, but just as a reminder, without the stock market, all companies would be 100% privately owned. Apple, Pepsi, Microsoft, and Amazon would all be owned by just a handful of people. Imagine Bill Gates still owning 85% of Microsoft. He would be 20,000 times more wealthy than he is today. 3 trillion versus 100 billion. If you don't like what Musk is doing with X, you might not like all companies being privately owned.
So I don't know if I even agree with this idea of what the world would be like, but you talk about Elon Musk buying X. He did that with stock from Tesla, which is a company that was unprofitable most of the time. Like Elon Musk got his billions via the shareholder wealth funnel. So it's, if he was only the owner of Tesla, which never turned a profit, he wouldn't have had the money that he used to buy X in the first place. So, and you look at the shareholders of Apple and Pepsi and Microsoft, I mean, Bill Gates, my God, like he's also making money through the stock market. So I think when you look at how big these companies have become, I don't think that they could have done that. And the billionaires could have done that without the wealth redistribution that happens via the shareholder system. So yeah, I just don't agree with the whole world that you've created here. You wouldn't have a Bill Gates with the amount of money that he has without the shareholder system.
Supermarkets.
Wait,
go ahead.
Hold on.
Yep.
Truthfully, because we've kind of dipped into this a couple of times, and I know, Jen, that you don't have like a fully formed opinion on the alternate, or what an alternate system would look like. I would be genuinely interested to hear it if at some point there's an idea of like we could float this and just see what it would go like. My brain is so hardwired in this world, Jen, that it is very difficult for me to think of an economy that doesn't have a stock market other than
me too.
like a communist style Politburo or something. So if you come up with something, I would be interested.
You are the very first person I'm going to talk to about it. That's for damn sure. So don't worry about that. But that's, like I said, like I'm just kind of reevaluating what the stock market is. So a lot of these thoughts are just identifying the problem. I don't have a solution right now, but as I get closer to one, I think this is going to be a running theme on this show.
Supermarket Skullduggery writes, every native Oregonian? Sure. Knows the best tortilla chips in the grocery stores are Juanita's, a regional
Amen.
brand from Hood River, Oregon, that makes restaurant-style tortilla chips. About 10 years ago, a new local brand with almost identical color schemes and a similar style picture, and I, like Jen, took French
La
in high
Cocina
school.
de Josefina.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to try. I have no idea if it's right, but yep.
I think it is, but I don't know.
Started appearing at grocery stores, at Safeway and Kroger-owned stores. Massive displays advertising this upstart tortilla tailor were erected. It was all a lie. The new upstart was a Frito-Lay PepsiCo brand. The address on the back of the bags was the Portland Metro Frito-Lay factory, but the customer service line on the bags was not for Frito-Lay customer service, but a local Vancouver, Washington number, and Frito-Lay was conspicuously nowhere to be found on the bag. While this is an open secret, 10 years later, Frito-Lay still pays national grocery chains to advertise them as a local Pacific Northwest brand, and La Cocina de Josefina is conspicuously missing from the Frito-Lay website. Juanita's is still going strong, and I like to think that the majority of Frito-Lay's knockoff stock ends up at food pantries and clearance grocery stores.
I love that you sent this in unrequested because I have seen those knockoffs and I'm just like, this isn't Juanita's, and it was pissing me off. And I was like, because Juanita's, they are great chips. And so this explains it. Like why, yeah, I saw the knockoffs. I did not look into it to the level that you did, but I've definitely been tricked by the bag. And I'm like, oh, where's actual Juanita's? So yeah, thank you for telling us that. And that is crazy that it's not listed on the Frito-Lay website, because I've noticed that too, that if you really look, there are products that they kind of low key own, but don't want us to know that. So yeah, really good email. Thanks for that information. Have you guys had Juanita's chips? Do you know how good they are?
I have to be honest with you. I'm like a 1 out of 10 on caring about this one. Like you could maybe persuade me. I'm just saying, like, in terms of priorities, this is reasonably low on my totem pole.
You know, when you get home, we should have a chip tasting, because the difference in tortilla chips in the grocery store is vast.
I'm here for this.
Yeah, these are really good. So.
Shout out to listener Dan. I don't know if this made it to the Chicago episode or not, but one listener brought me 5 pounds of cheese. 5 pounds of cheese is a lot of cheese to try to eat, and I tried. I ate 2.5 pounds of cheese. That's like a quarter of a shoebox of cheese. A lot of cheese that I ate. I still haven't pooped. It's been 7 days. I'm still just holding it in. And
actually, Lucas gave me a candle, and I don't know where it is. So if Justin has my candle, or Andrew, do you have my candle? Like, I want my candle. I don't know what happened to it. So, but yeah, thanks for bringing us gifts. Just know that when you do that when we're on the road, we don't know what to do with 5 pounds of cheese.
It's a lot of cheese.
Yeah, Andrew's walking around with it in a backpack for a while. Bold move on a hot day.
Yeah, I was gonna say backpack cheese and
if that's how I go out. If that's how I go out, I take that as a win. If I die doing what I love, eating inordinate amounts of cheese, well, crap it on France. So be it.
I haven't had Juanita's. I don't think. The bag looks familiar. They look really good. They look exactly like what I want out of a tortilla chip, which is covered in salt.
Yeah,
very corny and covered in salt.
Tostitas, the white bag, and Juanita's are my two go-tos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. If I the next time I see them, I will grab them.
Okay.
Almost everything Heaton said is incorrect. Writes the idea that price is only a reflection of supply and demand. Wow, how naive do you have to be to believe that? Also, what is it with Heaton's weird obsession with the term command economy anyway? There are currently like 2 command economies in the whole world, and neither major U.S. political party is proposing anything remotely similar. I think Heaton's main failure of insight is not realizing that the economy is already planned by naturally corrupt and rapacious? Sure. Enterprises. How dare we the people interfere with that? Am I right?
Well, I like the word choice of this email, although I disagree with the fundamentals there. Okay, there's 3 parts. I'll try to make this quick. the idea that price is only a reflection of supply and demand, how naive do you have to be to believe that? I guess we could, making a good faith argument here, we could maybe parse out what we mean by price. So there's the label, the numbers that you associate with something, and there's the actual amount people are willing to pay for it that's being charged. That's what I say when I say price. And yeah, I feel pretty comfortable saying that that is predominantly a relationship between supply and demand. And the reason that I get bent out of shape about it is that that's a fairly bedrock economic concept, that supply and demand have a relationship with one another. And so when there are attempts to just jump over it by fiat and say, well, we've made a law that supply and demand don't count anymore, to me, it is like saying, well, we've outlawed humidity. And I get flustered because I'm like, well, this is going to be very ineffective, which brings me to the next point, the obsession with the term command economy. This is actually a really good question. The reason that I care is that I care very much about people, and I care very much about suffering and poverty. And I think that command economies are very inefficient, and they've got a very bad track record. And so I want to protect people. And the people that get hurt by command economies tend to be people on the edges that are the least able to deal with the outcomes of bad economic decisions. When I say command economy, what I mean is a catch-all term for the government controlling the private sector. The reason that I use it is that if I were to say socialist, I would mean that the government owns and operates that particular thing. Like the government owns and operates police departments. But it would not be correct to call like the government ordering the private sector around as socialist, because private sector still owns. So I use command economy, and it just means the government's interfering in that particular economic thing. And I think I'll leave it there. I stand by my weird positions.
Well, and I have two things to say about this email. One, if you have something to say about Heaton's, theories on supply and demand, that doesn't make it okay to like call him naive. I really don't like the name calling in this. And then when it comes to the term command economy, that's not just Andrew that's using that. I watch congressional hearings all the time, and that is the catch-all phrase for talking about an economy that is essentially the opposite of capitalist. So this isn't something that's just like a weird Heatonism. Like, this is a term that is often used. So be nicer to my friend, please, when you write it.
I'm going to start crying. Thank you, Jen. If I were here with Cornell West, we would have a big-ass fucking hug right now, and we'd all go eat chips.
And backpack cheese.
Yeah, backpack cheese. Yeah, questionable cheese in a backpack.
Yeah, it's queso when it melts. So actually, that combo sounds delicious.
Sunshine State Price Controls writes, if the most free red Republican state can have price gouging prevention, everyone else can too. Justin should know this. When a hurricane is bearing down on Florida, an emergency is declared, and it is illegal to charge $10 per gallon for gas when it was $2.50 before. It is illegal to charge a 300% markup on a generator. Ron DeSantis will personally drive to that gas station and kick the owner's ass. COVID was an emergency. It should be fine to say it's 10% more expensive because safety or materials. But just like a hurricane, if costs go up 10% but you 3 times your prices, DeSantis should kick your ass.
I would love to see Meatball Ron kicking anyone's ass.
He's got those boots. I don't want to get kicked by those boots. That'll hurt.
I think when it comes to price gouging, Jen and I were largely in agreement last week. And since I've already given an economics lesson, shall I kick it to you, Jen, on this, or do you want me to field it?
I mean, I largely agree with it. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to price gouge in emergency situations. There are laws. I mean, I think it was just a statement of fact. I don't really think there's anything to respond to.
Then I will disagree with this listener.
Okay.
I have no reason to defend Florida. Here's the two sides with price gouging laws. The reason that they're popular is people don't feel like they don't like being taken advantage of, and it feels like you're being taken advantage of if there's a snowstorm and shovels become $15 a shovel when they were $5. That's the understandable reaction. The reason that economists tend to not like price gouging laws is that they are a signal that brings more supply there. So if you keep laws the same as you keep prices the same as they were, where snow shovels are $5 a shovel, then you're going to run out of shovels very quickly. And so you have $5 shovels that you can't buy because they don't exist. Whereas if you allow the prices to naturally reflect that supply and demand delta, then they're going to go up, but you have them. So the choice ultimately is between more shovels that cost more or fewer shovels shovels you can't buy that cost less. And so it ends up alleviating the whole problem faster. It incentivizes the market to produce more stuff. And then it overall, it's a net gain.
Here's why that doesn't work in emergencies. if you're in a hurricane and your town is cut off from the rest of the world, you can't get more shovels. You just have to get the shovels out to the people that need them right now in the community. And so that theory doesn't work. In COVID, we had supply chain issues, so you couldn't get more masks. And so in order to protect your family, if you're now being charged $100 a mask, like in emergencies, that theory just doesn't work because you can't get more. And so I think that's why those laws are in place.
What about like, let's say there's a hurricane and it blows a bunch of roofs off. The hurricane's now gone and we have price gouging laws. I, as a roofer in Texas, am not going to drive to Louisiana, but I would if I can charge a crazy amount. Like in situations like that, would they be counterproductive?
Maybe. Yeah. Because if the people can't afford the wood to put the roof on their house, like you have to think of the people that need the roof on their house, not just these people that like, oh, I'm going to make a shitload of money if I drive a little further and, you know, use this opportunity of a disaster. Like there has to be some morality in an economy. It can't just be about dollars and cents. And at a certain point, you have to say these people need the shovel to get their car out of their driveway and they don't have $500 for a fucking shovel. Like, I think at a certain point, we do have to look at the effects on consumers and not just the people that are selling.
I mean, for the record, I completely agree with you there, but I'm only concerned with the effects on consumers and I'm only concerned with the outcome. And the whole reason that economists tend to object to price gouging laws is that you get more people coming in to fix roofs. So if you allow the prices of roofs to go up, you have 1,000 roofers as opposed to 20 roofers, and everybody gets more roofs. So that to me is a net gain, that more people are now clothed and housed by virtue of having those prices go up because it incentivizes people to go out. Or like during the supply chain issue with toilet paper prices go up, people start figuring out, well, maybe we could convert this into toilet paper, or like maybe we can use our distillery to make hand sanitizer, things like that. It ends up having more of the stuff we need and combats those shortages. So I'm with you on the outcome entirely, and that's why I'm opposed to price gouging. It's not because I want the people to make money, it's because I want there to be more stuff for the people suffering.
No, I understand that. I think that there's more factors at play than just economics in those situations. I think we've had power outages here in Texas. And when that happens, other cities send their power people, not because they're able to make more money, but because it's the right thing to do. I think that, you know, during Hurricane Katrina, people went down there and volunteered to help people rebuild their homes, not because they were making more money for doing it. It wasn't a supply and demand thing. It was because there was a disaster in our country and people went and volunteered. So I think that there's other factors at play than just economics. And so, yeah, I don't think that's a good reason to not have price gouging laws. I just don't think that economics is like the center of everything like that.
Hats off to everybody that volunteered. That's a wonderful part of society and deserves all of our praise. What I would push back on is if I'm in a situation where I don't have a roof, I don't want somebody else depriving me of the ability to pay more to get one because there's a moral impediment there. I would like to maintain that ability if there's a hurricane and my roof's gone and I'm either in a waiting line for 2 years or I can pay more and get a roof now, I would rather people not interfere with that.
But here's how you can pay more. Even with price gouging law, you can get it shipped in from some other state. You know, like you can pay more for the shipping and get the wood, even if the wood isn't allowed to be charged, 500% more locally. So, I mean, there's ways to use your money to cut in line. There always are. I just don't think that allowing emergency situations to be used for pure profit, I don't see why we would do that.
I follow the intuitive side of that very much. I don't enjoy feeling like I'm getting screwed over. I understand that. Overall, I think that it makes sense to build a system that utilizes self-interest for the greater good, and that's what I see happening. So, but I think we've got a different of opinion on this, but we've done a decent job flushing out. I don't know, Will, what do you think?
You both made excellent points. And
I think we'll have more real world examples of this that we can actually debate. Like right now, we're kind of just pulling examples out of our ass that don't actually exist. So as we go forward and look at real situations I think it's easier to analyze these things when we have a specific example in mind. And right now we don't.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, COVID is probably the best like recent example that I feel like affected everybody, right? Because like I've never been through a hurricane, so I can't really like relate to the damage that it does to a house, right? In the same way that like someone who has lived in the South other lives like can't relate to the damage that was done to my house when Buffalo got hit by that snowstorm 2 years ago, right? They're very different, but like, yeah, I don't know. I, as someone who uses the bathroom like everyone else, like finding toilet paper during COVID was like a pain in the ass, and like walking into a Sam's Club and seeing someone check out with like 10 things of toilet paper that I knew they were just going to go home and sell on eBay or whatever was frustrating as someone who was like, I just want to buy 1 pack of toilet paper for like a reasonable price.
Yeah. You're like, I'm shitting on newspapers. This is uncomfortable.
We all just need to invest in bidets. That's really what the secret is.
That's what happened, though.
Yeah.
All of my friends bought bidets.
In 2020, some Willy Loman type character that was down and out came home, that was vice president of a bidet company, and had crazy champagne sex with his wife. He was like, we're turning this ship around. We're going to be okay. Who knew bidets would do it? Hey, I'll throw this out for Jen, Will, or any listeners. The person that's probably the most well-known, articulate opponent of everything I just said is an economist named Isabella Weber, I think at Michigan. So if listeners, if you want to push back against me and you want to have some firepower, I think that's where you'd go. Yeah, just throwing that out there. I would I welcome being tested, because if I'm wrong, I want to know.
Yeah, I'm terrible at economics. Don't ask me what I got in college in my economics classes. They were bad grades. On Patreon, Per Annum writes, I understand why Justin likes per episode billing, but I was annoyed when I found out We're Not Wrong is the only creators I'm subscribed to that won't let me do a yearly subscription.
Well, I think that's because we do per creator. Once they switch us over, we'll be able to offer that, but you can't do yearly and per creation. That's not an us thing. That's a Patreon thing. So you'll get that soon enough, because we have no fucking choice.
Oh, never mind. Okay, sorry. I thought that was for the bonus episode. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't worry.
No, Patreon's the topic, darling.
Yeah, I made the same mistake yesterday. I almost moved these 2 emails, and then I was like, oh, I see what this is. Mm-hmm. Apple imperialism is our final one. First, they came for the audio jack, and I did not speak out because I listened with AirPods. Then they came for the indie devs, and I did not speak out because I was not a code monkey. Then they came for Epic, and I did not speak out because I did not play Fortnite. Then they came for Patreon, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
This is so accurate. It's so accurate. It's exactly, it's describing me. Yep. Fuck Apple.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you guys want...
Side note, I skipped out on Kamala Harris's speech, not because I didn't want to be there for it, but because I got invited to a Substack party and ended up hanging out with their CEO and a few other people, and they made some interesting points to me. So I don't know. I'm looking into that.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about them, but at this point with Substack being so successful, I'm not going to like close my Patreon because people are still using it, but I might add Substack to the long list of payment methods I already accept, because like if it's free, then I'll do it. If it's not, then I won't, but I'm not opposed to it. I'm just annoyed that we're being put in this position.
Yeah.
Ugh, I didn't need this shit right now.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio, where I usually serve as the editor to this show. I guess I still am. It's just that I'm also on a microphone this week.
You got an on-air credit.
I know. It's so exciting. Whoever made that bingo sheet like a year ago, they're losing their shit right now. Heaton, what's coming up on your show?
I have an economist on the show named Duran Acemoglu, who by some counts is the most cited economist alive at this time. I brought him on because I did an episode maybe 6 months ago with Rainier Zeitelman, and that economist had basically said, look, countries are rich if they pick capitalism, countries are poor if they pick command economies, and that was his worldview, which I broadly agree with. And I had a listener reach out and go, it's a little reductive. It's more complicated than that. There's context to it. You would do really well to bring on this guy, Duran Acemoglu, to kind of flesh that out. And I went, sounds great. So I brought him on. It's a fun chat about history and economics and kind of like big picture. Why do why did America wind up with more money than Mexico? What was the foundational cause for that? We get into it.
Jen, what's on the congressional dish?
So this week, it's not out yet, but it should be out by the end of the week. It is my episode about the DNC, but this isn't just me talking about it. There were things that happened that you did not see on TV. I think on TV, the convention was showing a lot of party unity, but on the ground, it's really not that united. And the Israel-Gaza situation was everywhere, from the protest outside to a protest of delegates that was happening inside. And so I really covered that, and I talked to members of Congress about it. So I pulled all of the conversations that I had with members of Congress. I talked to one of the uncommitted delegates who had slept outside protesting some decisions from the DNC. And so I just kind of stitched it together and told you that story from the ground, which I really don't, I mean, based on what I've seen on Twitter and on the corporate media, I really don't think that this was told very well, if at all. So yeah, that's the next congressional dish.
Will, what are you doing?
What am I doing? Justin, like 3 hours before his daughter was born, dropped an episode of World's Greatest Con that I worked on, obviously with him and Brian. So go listen to that. And if you are interested,
is this a new season? What's the episode?
It's another one-off. So it's about it's about Q ships in World War I and the decision to try to trick U-boats into attacking what looks like standard like passenger vessels, but are actually armed to the teeth with like guns and everything. It's pretty fun. It's a fun episode. It's like it's you're in and out. I think it's like 40 minutes long. It's one of my like favorite Brian deliveries yet, to be honest. Like there's a lot of like fun stuff in there. I did a lot of like sound design in the beginning of it. Yeah, it's a really, the listener dies 5 times in the episode. I will say that. So go listen to that. It's a lot of fun. And then if you want like a more like a thing that I'm actually like on, I work for a site called Android Police. It's a tech website that is focused on like Google products more or less, and we do a podcast once a week. You can go find me there and you'll hear me. And I show up on like other tech stuff every now and then. I'm on like DTNS every now and then, and I'm around. I talk into microphones sometimes every now and then.
Well, we were happy to have you talking with us today. This was fun.
Yeah, Will, you're a triple threat is the term.
A triple threat, yeah. I'm definitely. I mean, thank you guys for having me and for putting up with my I don't even know, my unpreparedness. I think I did okay.
You did a great job.
I hope Justin never comes back.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
He's dead to me now.
Oh God, yeah. Justin will be thrilled to hear that, I'm sure. Which I've been waiting this whole time. I'm like, he's just gonna like pop in. We're gonna be like 2 hours into this record, and he's gonna be like, "What's up, guys? I'm here now."
Yeah, listeners, I don't think you quite understand how much Justin enjoys working.
Yeah, it's weird.
He really does love his job to the point where I also anticipated Justin popping on, even though he's been a father for like less than 48 hours.
Yeah, the fact that we're talking without him has to be killing him now.
It is. Mm-hmm. He released an episode of World's Greatest Con 3 hours before his daughter was born.
Mm-hmm. He should have worn a condom.
He loves it.
Just kidding, Bella. We love you.
How does he end these things? I don't even remember. At this point,
he just yells bye.
He just that's the Patreon.
No, he
right?
says we're not. For Andrew Heaton and Jim Briney, we're not wrong.
Yeah.
Wait, let me do
it. Right.
For Andrew Heaton and Jim Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young, and we're not wrong.
That's it.